Greetings. Welcome to So Much to Talk About. We're here at the Borders Bookstore at Columbus Circle. It's my honor and pleasure to have one of the great coaches in the history of college football. He led USC to a 97-19 record, and he also has coached two NFL franchises, and he's about to start a new journey with the Seattle Seahawks. It's my pleasure to have the author of his book, Win Forever. My pleasure to have Pete Carroll.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Yes, indeed, sir. And, the first question I wanted to ask you, you talked about, during your talk, you talked about vision, having a vision and clarity as well, those two things. So I know that was a message in your book, and share with the audience more about having that vision and having that clarity of what you want in life.
Yeah, we've seen that the power of owning your own philosophy and getting to a point where you really embrace it is really something that can be instrumental in your life. And we've incorporated the thought in everything that we're doing, but just in general is an overall way of looking at your world. When you can come to grips with what's important to you and what is really the essence of what you're all about, boy, it just empowers you to do all kinds of things, and really you can go anywhere with that. So it's a process. It's not easy, and you have to work at it, and it's not going to happen overnight sometimes, but it's well worth the effort, and so many things come out of it. So I'm hoping that we can encourage people to do that more so.
Wow, and did it start at Redwood High School when you were only 110 pounds and you had the determination to be on the football team playing the defensive backfield?
That's part of it, yeah. There was an interesting article I read when I was about 15, just a couple years after that. There was a basketball player named Rick Barry who's a great player. He has a couple sons that have played in the league and all that. He was asked one time, if he had a philosophy that guided his life. And he said, well, I've learned that I'm a 46% lifetime shooter. If I miss my first 10 shots, look out. And way back then, it hit me, that there's a guy that really understood who he was, and he was so firm about it. It didn't matter what you did or what you said. He knew who he was, and he was able to always live that and bring him, what was best about him to the surface in his game. And I thought that was really a powerful message. So it kind of stuck with me. And then it made more sense later on when I got older. I don't know why I remembered it, but I did, so it's something we write about in the book and talk about some different illustrations and some practical approaches of people who have come to understand the power of really having a good sense for what you're all about. And Rick was one of my first inspirations.
Well, yes, indeed. And an underhanded free throw shot,
Yeah,
too.
you got him. That's right.
And I wanted to ask you about you've been under the tutelage of great leaders such as, of course, Monty Kiffin you worked with over at University of Arkansas,
Right.
and Lou Holtz at Arkansas, and Jerry Burns in Minnesota.
Yeah.
What collectively did you learn from those gentlemen?
Well, there was a lot of stuff, different stuff from different people. Like, for instance, one you didn't mention was Bud Grant, a guy that was an extraordinary observer, just an extraordinary observer, just had such sense and ability to envision, to see things, almost before they happen. And he taught me the power of really listening and communicating well by accepting information and drawing in information that's out there available to you. That was, instrumental. Lou was such a great organizer and such an entertainer, that there was stuff there that he was always in command of every situation. It was fun to watch him do it. I had the chance to work out at San Francisco with Bill Walsh and with George Seifert, and those guys had just set such structure in place, with their organization. They were so disciplined and precise about things. So there was different things from different people along the way that, helped me immensely.
That's right. And you came in the year after they won the title, so
Sure. Right. We had good championship years in the NFC West at the time, but we didn't get the Super Bowl those years. But we had a real nice run in the time we were there.
Wow, and I know there was so much backlash when you were hired to coach University of Southern California. And gentleman, Dr. Darrell Gross, who's a friend of mine, I've interviewed him a couple of times, and Willie McGinnis and Gary Plummer, those guys, Ronnie Lott, supported you. So how wonderful was it for those gentlemen to see what your vision was all about and to see how your personality will be able to propel USC to greatness?
They had a sense for it. Today I was with Teddy Bruschi up at ESPN, and he said he knew it was going to happen, and he could feel, even though we didn't get it all done at New England, so certain guys could sense that Willie was there at the time too, and they knew there was something here that one of these days was going to be pretty powerful. And fortunately it came together, and we got to prove it at SC, and now we get to take it to the league and see how we can do in Seattle.
That's right. And two more questions for you about Seattle. The fact that you have, full control of football operations, that was a huge factor for you going there. Right?
Absolutely, yeah. I didn't want to go to the NFL and not have that. I would not never have done it. I wasn't that compelled to go to the league. This was just such a tremendous, kind of group of elements that made up this job description that it was just perfect for me. And to hire a guy like John Schneider who comes in and gives me all the personal expertise and a wonderful, young, energetic, smart, bright guy, to work with. It's exactly what I was hoping would happen, and if we were going to ever do it. And so that's why I'd always given up on the league. I didn't think that anybody would come up with the right format, but Todd Lewicki and Paul Allen, decided to go for it and give me a chance, and they specifically wanted me to bring the philosophy, bring the approach, and do it the way we wanted to do it. So it just made for a really good marriage, and it was enough to get me to leave something I loved so much at SC. So the challenge really drew me. Just being a competitor, I couldn't turn it down, and if the elements were right, and it was. So that's why we wound up there.
That's right. And Bill Withers, that clip I saw on YouTube, I have that on my favorite clips on my channel. And you're a music aficionado. Give me your assessment of of similarities between an ensemble and a football team.
Well, very, very much similar in that the preparation and practice is everything, and so one of the main themes in our whole work, you have to get to the point where through your practice and repetitions, where you can take it beyond the discipline takes you to where you can improvise and freelance and play with your music as it's implied, until you put in the discipline work, you can't ever get to the virtuoso, you can't ever get to the expertise, and in football it's the same way. It takes long, hard, efforts to discipline yourself so that you have the basics down, the fundamentals, where you trust and believe in yourself, so that now you can have the freedom. It is freeing, through the discipline. And so music and performance in sports, to me, is very, very much the same. And I've always seen it that way. And it crosses over a lot of areas, beyond that as well.
Coach Carroll, I thank you for the opportunity. Pleasure to talk with you.
Okay. Thanks for visiting.